Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how you can create this abstract animation in Blender 3.3 Alpha. You can get the file for $1 via the link in the description. So let's get started. First let's hit Shift A and add a plane. Now go to Geometry Nodes, close this window, and now let's click on New. Delete the group input and add a volume cube. Connect the volume to the geometry, add a Z shade smooth. Also add a join geometry node and a set material node. And we also need a volume to mesh node. This one. Now let's select these three nodes and duplicate them. Connect both of them to the join geometry. Let's save real quick. One thing that you can do here is to change the resolution. I recommend that you change it to something between 50 and 100. I'm going to set it to 100. I recommend that you do that for all of these three nodes. Add a mask wave texture. Connect the height to the density here and set the scale to 0 for now. Duplicate the mask wave texture and connect it here. You can of course use any texture you like. Now add a wave texture. Connect the color to the density. And now let's open a new window here and set it to timeline. Also set the density to 0 as well. Set the end to 100. Now let's keyframe the scale here, here and here. Also set the distortion here to 13. Go to frame 100 and set the scale here to 5. Press I again. Here we set it to 1. And here to 1.6. And of course keyframe them. Let's save again and play the animation. So this is what it looks like now. In the materials tab, let's create 3 new materials. I'm going to call the first one gold, the second one gold 2, and the third one glass. Now let's set this one to glass, this one to gold, and the last one to gold 2. In the shading tab, you can see that I've already got an HDRI set up. I'm going to put a link to the one that I use in the description. Let's go to rendered view. I'm going to use cycles for this. Go to the render properties, film, and enable transparent. For the glass, let's delete the principled BSDF and add a glass shader. Connect it. And let's add a mix shader. And also transparent. Now let's switch to the gold one. And for that I'm going to make it metallic. Set the roughness to 0.38. Now let's add a color ramp. Connect the color to the base color and make this one a light gold. And let's make the other one darker, like this. Let's press Ctrl T and delete the image texture. Connect the vector to the factor and add a mask wave texture. Set the dimension to 0, scale to 400 and the detail all the way up to 15. Now connect the vector to the normal. Add a noise texture. Set the scale to 10, the detail to 8, and the roughness to 0.45. Oh. And now let's add a bump node and set the strength to 0.5. I think I'm going to change the color a little more. So I decided to change the color to these values here. For the second gold material, all we need to do is press A and copy. Now go to gold 2 and let's delete this. Paste it in, and now we'll need to change a few values here. So let's set the noise to 12 and the strength to 0.008. One thing that I forgot to do earlier is to connect the object to the vector. Let's also do that for this gold material. Connect the object to the vector again. Back in layout mode, let's press 1 to go into front view and delete to focus on the object. Now press 6 on the numpad 3 times to rotate like this, and 8 2 times. And let's zoom out a little. Hit Shift A and add a camera. Control Alt 0 to go into camera view. And G sets it to move it on the local axis. Move it like this. Now let's hit Shift A again and add an empty. And let's press 7 to go into top view. Move it like this. If you hold Control, it will snap to the increments. Press 1 to go into top view, front view, sorry. Press GZ to move it like this. Now let's go here. Select the camera and enable depth field. Select the empty and let's set it to 0.3 for example. I think maybe 0.5 looks good. Now let's go to rendered view, and under the render tab I'm going to use 128 samples with denoise enabled and set to optics. If you don't have an NVIDIA GPU, you can't use that unfortunately. You'll have to use open image denoise, but I prefer optics. Now under color management, let's set this to high contrast, very high contrast. Under the output properties, you can leave the resolution at 1920 by 1080, but I'm going to set it to 4K for the sake of this tutorial. I just ran a quick test render and noticed that the depth of field is too strong, so I set it to 0.75. Also let's set the blades to 16 and go to the compositor. You need to enable use nodes and then enable denoising data to get these outputs here. Then just add a denoise node and set it to accurate. Back in the output properties, let's select a folder. I already created one for that. Let's call it rendered images. If you put an underscore after the name, Blender is going to automatically assign numbers to the frames, which is useful. So let's hit accept. Also let's change this from PNG to JPEG. I prefer JPEG because of the smaller file sizes. But if you want the image to be actually transparent, you'll need to use PNG and set it to RGBA. If we make a JPEG transparent, it's only going to be a black background. So let's set the quality to 100%. Now let's save again and go to render animation. When it's done rendering, you can close this window, go up here to video editing, and let's go to frame 1. Hover over the file location and press Ctrl C. Set this to FFmpeg video, the encoding to MPEG 4, and the output quality to high quality. Now go here and hit Shift A, image sequence, and paste in the location minus the name. Press A and enter. Now if you want to make this a looping animation, you can increase the end frame. I'm going to set it to 500 for example, and let's go to frame 100. Hit Shift A again, image sequence, and now it's important that we inverse the way that Blender sorts the images. So let's sort it by extension. That didn't work. By modified date, now we have frame 100 at the beginning and decreasing here. Now let's just duplicate this two, like this, and duplicate this one. Oops. Duplicate this one more time. And let's set the end frame to here, to 497. Go back to render animation, and now Blender is going to compile the separate images into a video. So that's it with the tutorial. I hope you liked it. Please let me know what I should do next, and I'll see you next time.